Have you ever felt the gut-wrenching confusion of being treated like you're invisible by someone who once claimed to care? Have you ever stared at your phone, wondering if the silence between you means indifference or something far more complicated? Here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you. Their silence doesn't mean they've forgotten you. In fact, they might be thinking about you constantly, but pride, the most toxic and silent poison, has locked their tongue. This isn't just a random emotional guess. It's a pattern as old as human nature, one Stoicism teaches us to see with clear, unflinching eyes. So what if everything you thought about closure, moving on, and being forgotten was dead wrong? What if their cold distance was actually a desperate mask? And right now, behind all that fake indifference, they're battling the storm you left inside them. The problem is real. Too many women torment themselves with endless doubt, blaming themselves for someone else's silence, wondering if maybe they were never enough. But the real dimensions of this pain run deeper and wider than you might think. Pride is a fortress built out of fear, ego, and insecurity. And when someone chooses it over vulnerability, they lose far more than you do. What happens behind that wall? What thoughts race through their mind at 2 a.m.? What regrets do they quietly choke on while pretending they're unbothered? Understanding these hidden dynamics isn't just about feeling better. It's about rising higher, about freeing yourself from invisible chains, about living the Stoic Relationships philosophy, where you rule your emotions instead of letting them rule you. If you're tired of playing guessing games, tired of interpreting cold texts and empty stories, tired of doubting your worth based on someone else's prideful silence, then stay locked in right here. Because what you're about to uncover will change the way you view yourself, your past, and every so-called rejection you've ever suffered. These aren't just theories, they're powerful realities you can use to reclaim your emotional dominance starting today. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop wondering and start winning? Are you ready to stop chasing and start attracting naturally, effortlessly, stoically? Good. Then let's dive deep into the real reason they can't forget you, no matter how hard they pretend, and why your silence is the most powerful message you'll ever send. And trust me, the ending will be something you don't want to miss. When silence screams louder than words. Silence is one of the most deceptive forces in human connection. It can feel like a void, like a heavy nothingness. But in Stoic relationships, we know that silence is never empty. It is filled with unsaid words, buried emotions, pride-choked regrets, and battles fought in secret. Have you ever wondered why, when someone truly moves on, they simply vanish without a performance? No over-explaining, no games, no half-hearted attempts to get your attention. They just go. But when someone is still tied to you emotionally, even if they pretend otherwise, their silence is not clean. It's noisy, it's chaotic, it's charged with all the things they cannot bring themselves to admit. The bigger their pride, the louder their internal conflict. Every day they don't speak, every hour they don't message, every story they post pretending to live their best life. It's another desperate, exhausting attempt to suppress the voice inside them that still screams your name. Isn't it strange how hard people work to prove they don't care if they truly don't? Why so much performance, so much posturing if their heart was untouched? The Stoic approach forces us to observe reality without illusion. Actions reveal the truth far more than words ever will. Silence from a place of peace looks very different from silence born of pride. One is soft, natural, final. The other is sharp, defensive, trembling under the weight of everything left unsaid. When you think about Stoicism, you think about emotional control, rational thought, inner strength. And yet, when someone is stuck in prideful silence, they lose all of that. Their mind becomes a battlefield where longing collides with fear, where the desire to reconnect is crushed under the fear of vulnerability. They are not masters of their emotions. They are prisoners of them. Have you ever caught yourself remembering someone at the oddest moment? A song plays, a scent floats by, and suddenly they're there, vivid and alive in your mind. That's how memory works. That's how emotions stay rooted in the human soul. If you made a real impact on someone, if your connection was authentic, you are not forgotten. You are not erased. You are alive inside their silence, haunting them more than 1,000 conversations ever could. Every time they sit in a quiet moment without distractions, you surface. Every time they feel lonely at night, you're the ghost they wrestle with. And yet, pride keeps their mouth shut. Pride whispers lies like, "Stay strong, don't be weak, don't let them see you care." They obey that voice, thinking it makes them powerful, when in reality it leaves them broken and isolated. Let's ask the hard question. If they didn't care at all, if they had truly moved on, would they need to fight so hard to pretend you don't exist? Would they need to prove anything to themselves or anyone else? No. True indifference is effortless. It doesn't demand proof. It doesn't crave an audience. It doesn't need to be performed. The harder someone works to show they're unaffected, the deeper the wound actually is. In Stoic relationships, we understand this simple, brutal reality. Silence often means more than words ever could. Their pride may gag their voice, but their actions and their inactions speak volumes. Every ignored message, every empty social media flex, every fake laugh is part of a desperate performance, staged not for you, but for themselves. Because deep down, they are still locked onto you. Not because you begged for it, not because you fought for their attention, but because you dared to pull away, to reclaim your power, to stop feeding their ego. When you withdrew, when you stopped being available, you broke the script they were relying on. They thought you would wait. They thought you would chase. They thought you would crumble without them. And when you didn't, when you stayed silent, that silence became unbearable. Do you realize how powerful that is? That you, without lifting a finger, are the thought they can't outrun. That's stoicism in action. That's the silent authority you hold when you refuse to play into pride-driven games. When someone acts like they don't care about losing, you look at how much energy they put into maintaining that facade. True stoic power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It simply exists, unbothered, unmoved, magnetic. Think about this. Have you ever been haunted by someone you didn't care about? Have you ever lost sleep over someone who meant nothing? Do you? Of course not. When a connection leaves a mark on your soul, it stays, whether you acknowledge it or not. And when someone is too proud to face their feelings, they don't destroy those feelings. They simply bury them deeper, where they fester and grow in silence. That silence you hear? It's their internal conflict growing louder by the day. Every memory they try to suppress, every feeling they refuse to name, every regret they deny, all of it adds pressure inside their mind, like steam in a sealed chamber. They think ignoring you will make the feelings fade. They think time will erase what was real. But Stoicism teaches us otherwise. Time doesn't erase truth. It amplifies it. It strips away illusions. It forces people to sit with their real choices, their real mistakes. And that's exactly what's happening now. You are the silence they can't escape. You are the thought that resurfaces when their distractions fade. You are the absence that speaks louder than any words ever could. They may not call. They may not text. They may not even look at you in public. But the emotional noise inside them is deafening. Every reminder of you, your laugh, your energy, your kindness, cuts through their pride like a blade. And still they stay silent, clinging to the very ego that cost them someone irreplaceable. In Stoic relationships, we embrace this knowledge. We do not chase. We do not beg for recognition. We do not lower ourselves to compete with someone's pride. We simply move forward, grounded in our own power, letting our absence teach lessons. We never need to spell out. Ask yourself, is someone who is truly over you spending their energy pretending not to care? Is someone who truly moved on stalking your social media in the dark, lurking on your life without your permission? Of course not. They are still bound to you even if they can't admit it. Their pride shackles them. Their silence screams your name. Their fake smiles and empty distractions are the music of regret playing on repeat inside their mind. And the longer they stay silent, the louder the regret grows. Because real connections leave echoes. Real love leaves scars. And Stoicism teaches us to recognize that silence is often the truest confession of all. It is not indifference. It is not peace. It is fear. It is loss. It is longing wrapped in chains of pride. So next time you feel tempted to interpret their silence as a sign that you didn't matter, remember this. The mind forgets what never touched it, but it never forgets what carved itself into the soul. You are unforgettable. Not because you chased, but because you stopped, because you chose your dignity over your desire to be chosen, because you understood that your worth is not up for debate. Stoic relationships are not built on begging, pleading, or proving. They are built on strength, clarity, and deep self-respect. Your silence is not emptiness. It's a thunderstorm raging in their mind. Every unspoken word, every missed chance, every swallowed emotion is part of a growing wave they can no longer hold back. And when it finally crashes, when their pride can no longer protect them from their own truth, it won't come with grand gestures or heartfelt apologies. No, it will come in quiet moments, in sleepless nights, in flashes of memories they can't suppress, in regrets they can't undo, but by then you'll be standing tall, too far ahead to be touched by their belated realizations. That is the Stoic way. That is the power of true emotional mastery. That is the force of your silence, speaking louder than 1,000 empty words ever could. 2. Pride builds an invisible prison. Pride is one of the most seductive lies the human mind tells itself. It whispers that staying silent is strength. It whispers that not reaching out is power. It whispers that admitting vulnerability is weakness. But what pride never reveals, what Stoicism forces us to see with brutal clarity, is that pride is not a fortress protecting you from pain. It is a prison locking you inside it. Think about it. How many times has someone let their ego dictate their actions, only to wake up months, even years later, haunted by regrets too heavy to fix? How many relationships have been broken, not by betrayal or cruelty, but simply by two people too proud to say the words that could have healed everything? In Stoic relationships, we recognize that emotional cowardice dresses itself up as pride. True strength is never about who can stay silent the longest. It's about who can face their own heart without flinching. It's about who can acknowledge their mistakes without shame, who can move through vulnerability without being ruled by it. But the ones thinking about you, the ones who miss you but refuse to admit it, are not living in strength. They are trapped. Have you ever seen a wild animal in a cage? At first it paces proudly, snarling at the outside world, convinced it chose this separation. But over time, the walls begin to close in. The animal realizes it no longer controls its freedom. That is exactly what pride does to the human spirit. At first, they believe staying away from you, pretending indifference, is power. They believe not sending that message, not liking your photo, not calling you on your birthday is strength. They even congratulate themselves for winning this imaginary game. But slowly, the weight of their silence grows unbearable. They sit with their thoughts longer. They wonder what you are doing. They start to miss you when they least expect it. Over breakfast, during a meeting, walking past a place you once laughed together. And because they are ruled by pride, they cannot act. Their own ego tightens the chains around them, one missed opportunity at a time. You may think their silence means they don't care. You may think their absence means they've moved on. But Stoicism teaches us to measure reality not by appearances, but by patterns, by cause and effect. And the truth is, if they had truly healed, they would not be performing indifference. They would simply be living. Silence born from peace feels final, detached, almost gentle. But silence born from pride feels desperate, theatrical, forced. It needs to be seen. It needs to be noticed. It needs to convince both you and them that they are strong, even as their soul buckles under the pressure. The cage they built with pride becomes smaller every day. Regret seeps through the cracks. The missed chances, the unsent messages, the could-haves and should-haves, they pile up until the weight becomes unbearable, and yet still they stay silent, terrified that reaching out would mean admitting weakness. Have you ever asked yourself why someone would rather suffer silently than risk a simple message, a simple conversation? Why they would rather lose something real than risk bruising their ego? Pride builds a reality so distorted that even obvious solutions seem impossible. In Stoic relationships, we understand ego is a mirage. It promises strength, but delivers isolation. It promises dignity, but delivers regret. It promises control, but delivers chaos. And so they sit in their invisible prison, staring through the bars they built themselves, watching you thrive without them, haunted by the freedom they forfeited. What's worse? They tell themselves you don't matter. They repeat it like a mantra. They drown it in new distractions, in hollow connections, in fake laughter at parties they don't even enjoy. But it doesn't work. Pride cannot erase real emotion. It can only delay the reckoning, and the longer they delay, the more the truth festers inside them. You are not forgotten. You are not replaced. You are the wound they refuse to treat. You are the memory they cannot scrub clean, no matter how many new faces they chase. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that a single step forward could free you, but being too paralyzed by fear to move. That is their reality now. Every day they don't speak is another day deeper in the prison of their own making. Every night they lie awake wondering if you still think about them, if you still care, if there's still a chance, only to tell themselves it's safer not to find out. Pride feeds fear, fear feeds pride, and the cycle becomes unbreakable. That's why you don't hear from them. Not because you were insignificant, not because you did something wrong, but because their ego demands silence at any cost, even if that cost is losing you forever. In Stoic relationships, we don't cling to pride. We don't let fear of vulnerability dictate our actions. We act with integrity, even when it's hard. We own our emotions without letting them own us. We step forward into discomfort if it means honoring our truth. But they would rather stay frozen. They would rather pretend, perform, and perish inside a shell of fake strength than take one step towards healing. And here's the bitter irony. By trying so hard not to lose, they lose everything that mattered. By refusing to bow, they fall. By refusing to reach, they are left empty-handed. You must remember this. Their silence is not your failure. It is their fear. Their absence is not proof of your unworthiness. It is proof of their imprisonment. They are not free. They are not better off. They are trapped in a maze of their own pride, and every day you shine brighter without them, the walls of their invisible prison close in tighter. They thought ignoring you would make them feel powerful. Instead, it made them feel powerless. They thought staying silent would prove they had moved on. Instead, it proved that they couldn't. They thought not reaching out would spare their ego. Instead, it exposed their cowardice, and the more they resist, the heavier the silence becomes. Eventually, pride will turn to panic. Panic will turn to regret. Regret will turn to bitterness, and bitterness will turn to sorrow. But by the time they realize it, the door they once refused to walk through will be permanently closed. You will have moved on, not out of spite, but out of necessity. You will have grown into someone even they wouldn't recognize. Someone too powerful, too joyful, too stoic to ever fit back into the small world they tried to keep you in. That is the final lesson pride teaches far too late. That silence doesn't preserve dignity, it destroys it. That withholding affection doesn't guard the heart, it starves it. That waiting until it's too late doesn't protect anything. It costs everything. If you are living in the aftermath of someone else's pride, let this be your reminder. You have nothing to prove. Your silence is not weakness. Your absence is not defeat. You are the mirror they cannot look into without seeing the truth they tried so hard to escape. Let them stay in their invisible prison if they choose. Let them battle their pride while you build your empire. Let them chase shadows while you chase purpose. You owe no explanations. You owe no apologies. You owe no second chances. Your life is too valuable to be spent waiting outside someone else's self-imposed walls. Stoicism teaches us that true power is not reactive. It is not desperate. It is not performative. True power is calm. It is silent. It is self-contained. It is choosing to walk away when pride has closed the doors of honest communication. It is understanding that their inability to face you is a reflection of their own weakness, not yours. It is trusting that time will reveal all truths, and that by then you will be too far ahead to care. If you've resonated with this, if you feel that silent power rising inside you, do one small but powerful thing. Like this video. Comment number 1 below if you're choosing to live above pride and fear, and subscribe to this channel for more deep Stoic relationships wisdom to keep you unshakable. Thank you for being here. You are not alone, and your power is only just beginning. 3. They watch from the shadows. There is a kind of surveillance that prideful hearts engage in, one that is silent, hidden, and desperate. They watch from the shadows, pretending they are detached, pretending they have forgotten, but the truth is far more telling. In Stoic relationships, we are trained to recognize the hidden currents beneath the surface, to see the invisible signs that betray true emotional entanglement. They don't comment on your posts, they don't like your pictures, they don't send you messages, and yet they are there, lurking, checking, scrolling, unable to resist the pull of your presence. Because real detachment does not obsess, real closure does not lurk, real peace does not spy from the darkness. If they were truly over you, your life would be irrelevant to them. You would be a chapter closed, a book put away without a second glance. But instead, they orbit around you like moths to a flame they can neither approach nor abandon. Have you ever sensed it? That strange, almost palpable feeling that someone is watching, thinking, wondering, but too afraid to be seen. That is the echo of their pride clashing with their desire. They want to know if you're still hurting, if you're still waiting, if you're still available. But they cannot risk revealing their hand, so they hide, believing that distance preserves their dignity, not realizing that Stoicism teaches us it only exposes their weakness. In Stoicism, we understand that true strength requires no secrecy. True strength is open, unapologetic, clear. But what they are doing is the opposite, operating from fear, from regret, from an unresolved longing they dare not admit. Why watch someone you claim to have forgotten? Why monitor the life of someone you supposedly don't miss? The answer is simple, because the emotional bond still exists, even if their pride forbids them from nurturing it. Watching from the shadows is a coward's attempt at connection, one that allows them to feed their curiosity without risking their pride. They want to see you thriving, but they hope to catch a glimpse of struggle. They want to believe you're moving on, but secretly they fear you are moving beyond them. Every smile you post, every new milestone you celebrate, every glow in your life that shines brighter without them, it stings. It slices through the illusion they carefully built for themselves, the lie that they could leave you behind and remain untouched. They justify it to themselves. They say it's harmless curiosity. They say they're just checking in. But Stoicism unmasks such rationalizations for what they are. Emotional dependency wearing the mask of indifference. They are emotionally tethered to you still, unable to sever the tie, but unwilling to admit it. They believe that by hiding, by lurking silently, they are protecting themselves. But in truth, they are feeding their own suffering. Every glimpse into your life reignites the feelings they are trying so hard to extinguish. Every success you achieve without them reminds them of what they lost. Every new chapter you write without their name in it forces them to confront the reality that life moves on, with or without their permission. Their pride cannot save them from this realization. Their ego cannot shield them from this truth. It only delays the inevitable reckoning. Imagine living a life where every time you try to look forward, you are haunted by the past you pretended didn't matter. Imagine carrying the burden of silent observation, of witnessing someone you once knew, someone you once had full access to, becoming greater without you. That is their reality now. They sit in the shadows, watching, regretting, rationalizing, and yet doing nothing, because taking action would require vulnerability, and vulnerability is something their pride cannot afford. In Stoic relationships, we understand that silence is not neutrality. Silence, when combined with observation, is obsession in disguise. They are not just passive witnesses to your growth. They are active participants in their own suffering, choosing every day to look, to wonder, to wish, but never to act. You might ask, if they care so much, why don't they reach out? Why don't they swallow their pride and speak? Because fear has replaced love as their primary motivator. Fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, fear of confirming that you have indeed outgrown them. They would rather cling to the fantasy of still having a place in your heart than risk discovering that you have moved on. And so they watch from afar, paralyzed, prisoners of their own ego, architects of their own misery. Meanwhile, you continue to live, you continue to rise. You continue to embody the Stoic principle of moving forward with grace, strength, and unwavering self-respect. Their silent observation is a confession, even if they never utter a word. It is the unspoken admission that they still care, that they still wonder, that they still feel the loss. And yet they will never tell you, they will never show you, they will never give you the satisfaction of hearing it from their lips, because pride won't allow them. Pride demands that they maintain the facade, even as that facade crumbles under the weight of reality. And you, armed with the wisdom of Stoicism, do not need their words. You do not need their validation. You see the truth written in their actions, in their patterns, in their silent, shadowed presence in your life. Every story they view but never react to. Every profile visit left unannounced. Every subtle hint that they are still keeping tabs on you. These are not accidents. These are not meaningless. These are the manifestations of a heart still chained to a past it refuses to face. They may convince themselves that by watching you from afar, they are still in control. But control built on avoidance is no control at all. It is fear masquerading as strategy. It is pride disguising defeat. And in the end, the only person they are fooling is themselves. Stoic relationships are built on transparency, on honesty, on the courage to face uncomfortable truths. But they are living the opposite, hiding, peeking, wishing, regretting. They are spectators of a life they once had access to, now reduced to mere shadows at the window, watching a reality they no longer belong to. You have become the reflection they cannot look at directly. You have become the proof that their silence was not power. It was surrender. And the more you grow, the more you thrive, the more you embody stoicism in your every step, the sharper that realization becomes. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you checked on someone you truly didn't care about? When was the last time you monitored the life of someone who meant nothing to you? You didn't, because when something truly ends in your heart, it ends without lingering. It ends without obsession. It ends without surveillance. Their need to watch you is the clearest evidence that they are still entangled, still hurting, still trying to make sense of the choice they made to let you go. And every day they spend watching instead of healing is another day they waste trapped in a cycle of pride and pain. In Stoic relationships, we don't concern ourselves with the shadows. We live in the light. We move boldly, authentically, fearlessly. We understand that those who truly matter will stand beside us openly, without games, without hiding. Those who belong in our lives will not have to lurk in the dark. They will walk through the front door, heads held high, hearts laid bare. And until someone has the strength to do that, their silent watching remains exactly what it is: a confession of unfinished business, a ghost clinging to a life that has already outgrown them. So when you sense that presence hovering around your life, when you feel the eyes that dare not be seen, remember, it is not your burden to carry. It is not your responsibility to fix. It is not your job to break your stride for those trapped in their own pride. Your duty is to yourself, to your growth, to your peace, to the Stoic path that leads not to shallow victories, but to deep, unshakable strength. Let them watch, let them wonder, let them drown in the silence they chose. For you are not a spectacle to be observed, you are a force to be reckoned with, and no amount of silent watching will ever change that. 4. Distractions are just temporary escapes. Distractions are the great illusionists of human emotion. They promise relief. They promise escape. They promise that if you just stay busy enough, just stay entertained enough, you will forget the ache gnawing at your heart. But Stoic relationships reveal a deeper truth. Distractions are not cures. They are bandages over open wounds, masks over broken faces, echoes covering the silence of unresolved feelings. When someone loses you and refuses to face the truth of that loss, they don't always sit still in their sadness. Often they run faster, farther, more desperately than ever before. They pack their calendars with events. They flood their lives with noise. They chase fleeting pleasures, hollow conversations, shallow victories. They convince themselves that if they just move fast enough, the pain won't catch them. If they just laugh loud enough, the memories won't whisper. If they just stay distracted enough, they will finally outrun what haunts them. But Stoicism teaches us that no external movement can ever silence internal unrest. The mind, the heart, the soul, they catch up eventually no matter how far you run. Think about it. How often have you seen someone dive headfirst into new relationships, new hobbies, new adventures right after a painful separation? How often have you seen them parade their happiness like a badge of honor, posting every outing, every forced smile, every shallow triumph for the world to see? On the surface, it might look like they've moved on. On the surface, it might even seem enviable. But Stoicism trains us to look deeper, beyond appearances, into the hidden reality. True healing is quiet. True peace is private. True growth does not need an audience. When someone floods their life with distractions after losing you, they are not moving forward. They are running in circles, trying to tire themselves out before the memories catch up. They are pretending that new faces can replace old bonds, that new experiences can overwrite old emotions, that forced smiles can erase real sadness. But inside, the truth festers. Inside, the silence grows louder. Inside, the unspoken feelings grow heavier. Distractions are a form of denial. They are a refusal to sit with the discomfort of loss, a refusal to face the reality of what was lost, a refusal to accept that some connections cannot be replaced by busyness. In Stoic relationships, we embrace the discomfort. We sit with it. We process it. We let it refine us, not define us. But those who live in distractions refuse that growth. They choose avoidance over acceptance. And in doing so, they only deepen their own suffering. Every party, every rebound, every weekend trip becomes another layer of noise trying to drown out the truth that they miss you, that they regret losing you, that they don't know how to fill the space you left behind. And the harder they try to distract themselves, the more obvious it becomes that they are still trapped in the emotional undertow they pretend doesn't exist. Have you ever noticed how someone who is truly happy doesn't feel the need to prove it? They don't broadcast every smile. They don't parade their peace. They simply live quietly, contentedly. But someone who is forcing happiness, someone who is desperate to convince themselves and others that they're fine, becomes loud, performative, exaggerated. Every post is curated. Every story is strategic. Every move is calculated to send a message. Look at me, I'm doing just fine without you. But Stoicism teaches us to see through these performances. True peace speaks for itself. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't crave validation. It is self-sustaining, self-evident. When someone is loudly living, loudly moving on, loudly pretending, they are not healed. They are hiding. Every distraction they chase is another sign that the wound is still open. Every new person they date is a reminder that they are trying to replace what they lost with something easier, something safer, something that doesn't require them to confront their mistakes. But the heart knows the difference. The soul knows the difference. They might fool the world. They might even fool themselves for a little while. But in the quiet hours, when the party ends, when the laughter fades, when the phone stops buzzing, they are left alone with the one thing they cannot outrun, their own regret. And you are not part of this circus. You are not chasing distractions. You are building something real, something lasting, something unshakable. You are living stoic relationships, not hollow performances. You are growing in silence. You are healing in truth. You are moving forward without needing to prove anything to anyone. And that contrast, the authenticity of your growth versus the desperation of their distractions, cuts them deeper than any confrontation ever could. Every time they see you thriving without noise, without theatrics, without chasing validation, it reminds them of what they gave up. It reminds them of the peace they forfeited. It reminds them that real strength doesn't need to be advertised. Real healing doesn't need to be broadcasted. Real love doesn't need to be replaced. In Stoicism, we find freedom by accepting reality exactly as it is, not by running from it. They, however, are still prisoners of their denial. Their distractions might delay the reckoning, but they cannot prevent it. Eventually, the noise will stop working. Eventually, the new faces will feel hollow. Eventually, the endless movement will lose its ability to numb. And when that moment comes, when the distractions fail, they will have no choice but to sit with their truth, to confront the silence, to feel the full weight of what they lost. And it will hit them harder because they spent so long running. The delayed grief, the postponed regret, the suppressed longing, all of it will come crashing down at once. And by then, you will be far beyond their reach, living a life so full, so rich, so deeply aligned with Stoic principles that their presence will no longer even register. They will become a whisper in your story, a lesson learned, a chapter closed. So when you see them out there posting, partying, pretending, remember, distractions are just temporary escapes. They are not healing. They are not strength. They are not proof that you didn't matter. They are proof that you mattered so much that facing your absence head-on was too much for them to bear. Their pride demands they stay silent. Their fear demands they stay distracted. But their heart, The part they are trying so hard to silence knows the truth. You are not replaced. You are not forgotten. You are the one they cannot outrun, no matter how fast they move or how loud they laugh. And Stoicism reminds you that your peace, your progress, your presence is not dependent on their recognition. It is rooted in your own resilience. Stay the course. Stay grounded, stay silent if necessary. Let them chase ghosts while you chase greatness. Let them drown in distractions while you rise in purpose. Because while they are busy running from their pain, you are busy building a future too powerful for their pride to touch. That is the Stoic path, that is the ultimate revenge. Not in bitterness, not in anger, but in unstoppable, undeniable, unshakable growth. And if this truth resonates with you, if you feel that silent power stirring inside, take a second to like this video, comment number 1 below, to let the world know you're choosing authentic Stoic strength over distractions, and subscribe to this channel for more deep insights on Stoic relationships and emotional mastery. Your journey is just getting started, and trust me, you are on the path to becoming truly unstoppable. 5. Thriving without them hurts more than words ever could. Thriving is the ultimate response to abandonment, to pride, to indifference that was only ever a mask for fear. Thriving is not just about success, it is about becoming untouchable in spirit, about reaching a level where their silence, their absence, their cowardice no longer holds power over you. In Stoic relationships, we understand that the greatest revenge is no revenge at all. It is happiness, it is growth, it is peace that cannot be shaken by another's failure to see your worth. When you thrive without them, you deliver a blow far more painful than any words could ever inflict. Words can be argued with, denied, twisted. Success cannot. Growth cannot. Your unstoppable evolution stands as a monument to their greatest mistake, thinking they could walk away from you and that you would remain stagnant, broken, waiting. Instead, you become a force of nature. Instead, you rise in a way that not only surprises them, but terrifies them, because now they see that you never needed them to begin with. Now, they realize that the person they tried to discard has outgrown them so completely that they no longer even exist in your new reality, and it burns them. It burns them more than silence ever could. It burns them more than confrontation ever would, because thriving is a mirror, and prideful people cannot bear to see their reflection in it. When they watch you thriving, truly thriving, not performing, they are forced to confront their own failures, their own stagnation, their own missed opportunities. They told themselves that leaving you would set them free, but instead it set you free, and now they are the ones trapped. They thought you would collapse without their presence, but now they see that their absence was your liberation. They thought you would chase them, but now they are left chasing ghosts, haunted by the life they no longer have access to. That is the Stoic way, not through bitterness, not through screaming, but through serene, undeniable transformation. Have you noticed how the more you thrive, the quieter they become? How the more you rise, the more their presence fades into the background. It is because thriving invalidates their pride. It dismantles the story they told themselves, that they were the strong ones, the winners, the ones with the upper hand. Pride cannot survive in the face of undeniable proof, and your life, your radiant, growing, unstoppable life, is proof. Proof that they misjudged you, proof that they underestimated you, proof that their silence was not strength, but cowardice. And every achievement you make, every goal you smash, every time you laugh genuinely without them, it is another reminder to them of what they lost. Thriving without them also destroys the fantasy they clung to, the fantasy that they could come back any time, that you would still be waiting, still longing, still available. Stoicism teaches us that emotional detachment is a gift we give ourselves, and when you truly thrive, you embody that principle. You show without a word that you are no longer emotionally tethered to the past, that you no longer crave what once hurt you, that you have moved beyond the games, the pride, the silence. You are living proof that healing is possible, that thriving is the ultimate closure, that you don't need an apology to be free. And that truth terrifies them more than any angry confrontation ever could. Ask yourself this: what hurts more? To see someone angry over you, or to see someone genuinely indifferent, genuinely better off without you? Anger still indicates attachment. Anger still indicates emotional investment. But thriving, real, stoic thriving, shows that you are beyond them entirely, that they no longer have access to your mind, your heart, your future, that they have become irrelevant in the grand story of your becoming. That is a wound their pride cannot patch, cannot ignore, cannot escape. And the more you flourish, the deeper that wound cuts. In Stoic relationships, thriving is not just personal victory, it is cosmic justice. It is the universe restoring balance, rewarding you for your courage to walk away, to heal, to grow. It is the silent, dignified triumph that no amount of pride, no amount of performance, no amount of pretending can undo. And it happens naturally, effortlessly, without spite, without obsession. It is simply the consequence of choosing yourself over someone who chose their ego over love. And while they sit in their distractions, while they linger in their pride, while they stalk from the shadows, you are out here building dreams, building connections, building a life that feels so rich, so satisfying, that the thought of going backward feels laughable. Every step you take forward widens the gap between you and them. Every new chapter you write without their name in it locks the door a little tighter. Every smile you wear genuinely, every night you sleep peacefully, every morning you wake up grateful instead of grieving, is another nail in the coffin of their relevance to your story. Thriving without them forces them to see the truth they tried so hard to avoid, that they were not your savior. They were not your source of happiness. They were not your future. They were simply a lesson, a necessary detour on your way to greatness. And in Stoicism, we welcome such lessons. We do not resent them. We do not cling to them. We integrate them. We transcend them. We honor the role they played, and then we move forward without bitterness, without chains, without regret. You see, when you thrive without them, you shift the entire dynamic. You no longer occupy the position of the wounded. You are no longer the one waiting, hoping, longing. You become the architect of your own destiny. You become the embodiment of stoic resilience. You become untouchable, not because you have built walls, but because you have built wings. And no amount of silent watching, no amount of prideful pretending, no amount of delayed regret can reach you once you take flight. And the best part, you won't even need to announce it. Your life will speak for itself. Your energy will radiate the truth. Your presence will be undeniable. Stoic relationships remind us that true power needs no validation, no permission, no external acknowledgement. It exists because you exist. It thrives because you thrive. It grows because you have chosen growth over grief, evolution over ego, destiny over distraction. Their pride demanded they act like they didn't need you. Their ego demanded they stay silent. Their fear demanded they distract themselves. But your thriving reveals the lie in all of it. And no matter how much they deny it, no matter how much they pretend, deep down they know. Deep down they feel the sting. Deep down they understand that the best thing that ever happened to them is now something they can never reclaim. And here is the final truth, the one Stoicism whispers gently into your ear when the nights get quiet and the memories try to sneak back in. You were never competing with them. You were never proving anything to them. Your journey was never about them at all. It was always about you, your growth, your strength, your destiny. They were just a chapter. You are the entire book. So when you thrive without them, You do not just win the unspoken battle, you transcend the battlefield entirely. You rise above the noise, the games, the pride, the fear. You step into a realm they cannot follow until they too learn the lessons you have already mastered. And by the time they realize it, by the time they muster the courage to admit to themselves that they lost something irreplaceable, it will be too late. You will be thriving too brightly, too authentically, too freely to ever look back. That is the true power of Stoic relationships. That is the true revenge of thriving. Not shouting, not proving, not chasing. Simply becoming. Becoming the person you were always meant to be. Becoming so complete, so whole, so radiant that the past looks small against the horizon of your future. 6. Fear of rejection keeps them frozen. Fear is the silent anchor that keeps people trapped in places they secretly despise. Fear is the invisible force that stops hands from reaching out, stops hearts from speaking up, stops souls from admitting their truth. In Stoic relationships, we understand that fear is not just a feeling, it is a chain, a heavy weight that clings to the ankles of the prideful, the regretful, the hesitant. When someone thinks about you constantly but says nothing, when they feel the pull of your memory, but refuse to act, it is fear, not peace, that governs their silence. Specifically, it is the fear of rejection, the fear that if they reach out, if they open that door even a crack, they will find not forgiveness, not warmth, but indifference. And that fear is paralyzing, because to be rejected by someone you regret losing is a deeper cut than any original loss. It is a final, undeniable proof that the window of opportunity has closed forever. And so they stay frozen, watching, wishing, wondering, but never moving, never acting, never speaking, because the risk of hearing silence on the other end of the line is more terrifying than the discomfort of living with regret. Have you ever stood at the edge of something you desperately wanted, but were too afraid to reach for? Have you ever convinced yourself that waiting a little longer would somehow make the fear go away, only to realize later that hesitation only breeds more fear? That is the trap they are caught in. Every day they hesitate, every day they stay silent. The fear grows stronger. It wraps tighter around their pride, around their heart, until reaching out feels impossible. They tell themselves stories. I'll do it tomorrow. I just need more time. Maybe they'll reach out first. Maybe it's better this way. But these are lies. Comforting lies whispered by a fearful ego that cannot bear the thought of facing reality. Stoicism teaches us to face reality without illusions, to embrace discomfort as the path to true strength. But they are still running from reality, still hiding behind pride, still frozen by fear. You see, reaching out would mean surrendering the illusion of control they've clung to so desperately. It would mean admitting that they care. It would mean exposing themselves to the possibility that you have moved on, that you are no longer waiting, that their silence cost them something they can never get back. And pride, the same pride that once convinced them to walk away, now becomes their prison guard, ensuring they never risk facing the consequences of their own actions. They are trapped between desire and fear, between longing and pride, and so they do nothing. They sit in the paralysis of hesitation, hoping that somehow, magically, the situation will fix itself. But Stoic relationships reveal the brutal truth. Life rewards action, not hesitation. Healing rewards courage, not comfort. Growth demands movement, not waiting. And so by choosing fear, they choose stagnation. By choosing silence, they choose suffering. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly wanted something and refused to pursue it out of fear? And how did that story end? Chances are it ended with regret, with the haunting question, what if? That is the question they are now living with every day. What if I had reached out? What if I had apologized? What if I had swallowed my pride? What if I had chosen courage over comfort? These questions gnaw at them silently, eating away at the facade of indifference they try so hard to maintain, because deep down, they know you were worth fighting for. You were worth the risk. You were worth the discomfort and their failure. To act is not a testament to your lack of value. It is a testament to their lack of courage. In Stoic relationships, we do not fear rejection. We understand that rejection is not a verdict on our worth, but a redirection towards something better, something truer, something more aligned with our highest self. But they see rejection as annihilation. They see it as the ultimate proof that their pride, their ego, their choices were wrong. And so they cling to silence, convincing themselves it is safer to wonder forever than to risk knowing for sure. But wondering is its own kind of torture. It is a slow, silent death of possibility. It is a self-inflicted wound that never truly heals. Imagine waking up every day carrying the weight of words you were too afraid to speak. Imagine seeing the person you miss most thriving without you, and knowing that the only thing standing between you and them was your own fear. That is their reality now. They live it every time they see your name, every time they hear your laugh in their memory, every time they stumble across an old photo or a place you once shared. They feel the pull. They feel the ache, but fear chains them to inaction. And the longer they stay frozen, the harder it becomes to move at all. This is the ultimate irony. They think staying silent protects them from pain, but in reality, it only deepens it. Every day they don't act, they lose a little more. Every day they hesitate, they drift a little further from the chance they secretly hope for. Every day they stay frozen, they seal their fate a little tighter. And by the time they find the courage to act, if they ever do, it will be too late. You will have moved on, you will have healed, you will have outgrown the person they once knew, stepping into a life so rich, so full, so stoically powerful that their presence would feel like an echo from a distant past. Fear of rejection keeps them frozen, but it does not freeze the world around them. Life moves on, opportunities fade, people evolve. Time does not stop because someone is afraid. It is relentless, unforgiving, stoic in its passage, and as time moves, so do you. Not out of spite, not out of vengeance, but out of a deep, unshakable commitment to your own growth. Stoic relationships are not built on the weak foundation of unspoken words and unmet longings. They are built on truth, courage, presence. And anyone too afraid to meet you there simply does not deserve a place in your future. So when you think of them, when you wonder why they stay silent, despite everything you both shared, remember this. It is not because you are forgettable. It is not because you are unworthy. It is because fear has paralyzed them. Fear of their own feelings, fear of your strength, fear of discovering that you have become untouchable. And you must keep moving forward. You must continue to thrive. You must continue to choose courage over comfort, growth over stagnation, truth over illusion. Because while they sit frozen in fear, you are forging a life so magnificent, so deeply rooted in stoic principles, that the memory of you will haunt them far more powerfully than any message you could have sent. Your silence is your answer. Your thriving is your victory. Your evolution is your legacy. And if this resonates with you, if you feel the fire of unstoppable growth burning inside, take a moment to like this video, comment #1 below to declare that you are choosing courage over fear, and subscribe to this channel for more life-changing insights on stoic relationships and emotional mastery. Your journey is unstoppable, your story is just beginning, and the best is yet to come. In the end, what matters most is not the silence they chose, not the pride they clung to, not the distractions they chased, not the fears that paralyzed them. It is who you chose to become in the face of it all. You chose growth. You chose clarity. You chose to walk the path of Stoicism with your head held high, not because it was easy, but because it was right. You learned that their silence was not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their fear. You understood that real connections do not require games, real love does not demand prideful silence, and true healing does not come from chasing, pleading, or performing. You embodied the principles of Stoic relationships by refusing to beg for what should have been freely given, by turning your pain into power, your loneliness into liberation, your silence into strength. Every step you have taken away from what tried to diminish you has brought you closer to the unshakable truth of who you are. Powerful, radiant, unstoppable. Their pride may have kept them frozen, their ego may have kept them silent, but you kept moving, you kept building, you kept thriving. And now you stand at a threshold where their absence is not a wound, but a gift. Not a sorrow, but a lesson, not a loss, but a redirection toward a life far greater than they ever imagined. This journey, difficult as it has been, was never about them. It was about you stepping fully into your greatness, about you mastering yourself, about you living a life so true, so aligned, so fiercely beautiful, that no shadow from the past can dim it. They are left with their silence, their regrets, their what-ifs. You are left with your peace, your purpose, your unstoppable future, and that in the end is the only closure you will ever need.